Welcome, everyone. It's Bible study time. Yay! Always excited about coming forward, y'all. Today I'm out in the field. I had a busy day today. A lot going on, y'all. A lot going on. And so I was busy I had some classes that I had to take. I had some things I had to do. And I just wrapped up the class at 1 o'clock. And so I decided I would just hop on right now, right where I'm at, and do this Bible study. Today's Bible study, we're going to be reading out of the book of Ruth. Today we're going to be reading out of the book of Ruth. We're trudging along. We've gone past the book of Judges and completed that. We've spoke to all of the communications of Judges. Let me roll the window up. Let's invoke the Spirit of God to assist me in the discernment of God's word, okay? Heavenly Father, I come before you looking for you. I'm always looking for you. I have literally turned over every stone looking for you. As I move forward, I ask that you lean in on me with your love and your attention and your protection, and you cover me with your love, your attention, and your protection. Guide and direct my steps. Lessen me and magnify you in all that I do. Put a hedge of protection round about me and all that I love. And in God's name I pray, amen. All right. So today we're reading out of the book of Ruth, y'all. And as I said, we have moved so much through this Bible. We are now systematically just moving through book to book. We're in the book of Ruth now. We moved through Judges. We spoke to Deborah. We spoke to Gideon and him facing the Moabites and the Amalekites and the children of the east, all of the robbers that come to siphon all of the beauty and all of the majesty and all the richness of the house. They come to siphon all that the children have, majesty and all the richness of the house. They come to siphon all that the children have, but they want to speak a word, their foot on their backs, so that they are never in a position to stand upright. Because the children have every single thing that they want. Everything. Naturally. And we move from that to Samson, a monumental Danite of the house that comes forth. And when he comes forth, he's dealing with the brokenness of the house. He's dealing with disenfranchisement, the fullness of that. The house, the leaders, the tribes of Judah and all of the tribes of Dan and all the tribes have now become broken, and they're wandering and doing things that are not conducive to their highest and greatest good. And this mighty man is brought forth in the house. A Nazarite from the womb. An anomaly that has never been seen before, and that Nazarite from the womb. An anomaly that has never been seen before and that has not been seen since. Themselves. And they're honoring things that will never see them. Only still mighty, but not in the way that he was created to be. He's limited. And we move from that to this book of Ruth. Y'all, I want y'all to pay attention to this book. This book is not only about women, but it is about women. It's about relationships, because the relationship between Naomi and Ruth transcends gender. It's a respect. It's maturity. The type of maturity that's so rich in its substance that it defies the test of time. The story of Naomi and Ruth is so rich because of the maturity. Naomi and Ruth is so rich because of the maturity that these women exhibited amongst one another. This is genuine regard because you see the value in another. We're going to read from Ruth chapter 1, verse 1, and I'll tell you where I'm going to stop. I don't know where I'm going to stop yet. Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. And the name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife Naomi, and the name of his 2 sons Mahlon and Chilion, Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Judah. And they came into the country of Moab and continued there. So we got people from the tribe of Ephraim sojourning, moving because of a famine. They're wandering, they're looking for water and sustenance, and they end up going into the land of Moab. They're going back to where Gideon and all of those that were being siphoned were. And Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left and her 2 sons. So her husband dies, and now she only has her 2 sons. And they took them wives of the women of Moab. The name of one was Orpah, and the name of the other Ruth. And they dwelled there about 10 years. After the husband dies, the sons come of age, they marry Moabite women. 10 years. After the husband dies, the sons come of age, they marry Moabite women. Orpah and Ruth. And they're married to these women, settled with their mother in the land of Moab for 10 years. And Mahlon and Chilion died also of them, and the women was left of her 2 sons and her husband. So now the 2 sons die after 10 years. Right when they're getting comfortable, here comes another deep, lasting change. Now everybody is widowed. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law that she might return from the country of Moab. For she had heard in the country of Moab how that the Lord had visited his people in giving them bread. Wherefore she went forth out of the place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her. And they went on the way to return unto the land of Judah. They heard that Judah is over the famine and that there's sustenance in Judah. So she picks up all of her stuff and she goes back home. Naomi, the older woman. Yet Orpah and Ruth pack up and go with Naomi. And Naomi said unto her 2 daughters-in-law, Go return each to her mother's house. The Lord deal kindly with you, as ye have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant you that ye may find rest, each of you, in the house of her husband. That she kissed them. Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voice and wept. And they said unto her, Surely we will return with thee unto thy people. And Naomi said, Turn again, my daughters. Why will ye go with me? Are there yet any more sons in my womb, that they may be your husbands? We're going to skip over. They may be your husbands. We're going to skip over 14. And they lifted up their voice and ordered her. Saying, Child, leave. You better get out of here. We don't have time to be feeling sad for her. Child, leave. You better get out of here. We don't have time to be feeling sad for ourselves. I'll figure it out. Let me know if y'all can see me, if I'm active. What more am I going to give you? I have nothing else to give you. And Ruth said, entreat me not to leave thee or return from following after thee. For whither thou goest, I will go, and where thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy God my God. And when she saw that she was steadfast minded to go with her, then she left speaking to her. So they went until they came to Bethlehem, and it came to pass, when they were come to Bethlehem, that all the city was moved about them. And they said, is this Naomi? The city knew Naomi before she got there, because of what level of loyalty Ruth has shown to her, and also because of the tragedy that happened to her in the form of her husband and both of her sons all transitioning and leaving her and her daughters husbandless. So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, with her, which returned out of the country of Moab, and they came to Bethlehem in the beginning of barley harvest. That's where I'm going to pick up at. Naomi and Ruth knew each other through the men in their lives. Naomi's husband transitions, and so do both her sons. And she's left with the remnant of all of them. Ruth is a Moabite woman. Remember back in, was it Numbers, when after Balaam the sorcerer tried to curse the children with sorcery, witchcraft, he couldn't do it. So what did he do? He gave pertinent information to the Moabites as to how to snag these children up, to make them harm themselves. Friend, they will use the Moabite women as seductresses to entice Israel to falling out of alignment. Now here we are several chapters later. They've already fallen out of alignment. Them transgressing with the Moabite women is just another transgression added on top of a whole laundry list of transgressions. It doesn't, I got the hiccups. It doesn't even matter at this point. The transgressions. There's so many of them. And Ruth, this Moabite, this street smart, beautiful woman, because this is what got the children caught up, is that these women were beautiful women. They knew how to entice men. They knew how to play on men's weaknesses with the visual, the body parts, and the soft words, and all of the things that men love about women physically. They knew how to placate on that. And instead of this type of woman, which is Ruth, leaving after her husband has transitioned, she decides to stay with Naomi, an older woman who can no longer have children. Ruth says, I believe in myself so much, Naomi, that I'm going to make it happen. You and me coupled with the smarts and the wherewithal and the youth that I have, and your level of experience, your blessing, your favor, we'll be all right. That is what is being conveyed here without verbally saying it, without it being spelled out verbatim. Ruth is cleaving to Naomi because of an emotional attachment that must have been fostered by something tangible. She must have seen Naomi as worthy to align to. It couldn't have just been because Naomi was nice to her. It couldn't have just been because Naomi cooked lentils really good. It was because Naomi brought a level of substance to the table. Whether it was Naomi having strong relationships in the community, or whether it was because Naomi had a huge level of common sense, a level of street savvy that was cloaked in righteousness. She had lived long enough to be able to stay in alignment and still get her needs met. Whereas Ruth didn't have it. Ruth only has her aesthetics and her youth. And the fact that she sees herself worthy and capable. They enter into the picture during harvest season, reaping season. And she comes across a family member of Naomi's husband. They say Boaz was Naomi's husband's brother or his uncle. Either way, they were related. And Ruth and Naomi are conversating. Chapter 2, verse 2. And Ruth the Moabitess said unto Naomi, Let me now go to the field and glean ears of corn after him in whose sight I shall find grace. And she said unto her, Go, my daughter. Ruth tells Naomi, I'm going into the field to show that I have skills, to show that I'm not lazy, to show that I got skills and I'm willing to get out here and get after it. I'll work for mine. I won't wait for someone to come and marry me. Naomi, I'm going to show that I will work for mine. I could easily have left you and went and found a husband and never had to work. Ruth was beautiful enough to do it. He may not have been wealthy, but he would have took care of her. But instead, she cleaves to Naomi. She takes the hard route. She takes the route that shows her level of self-worth. She says, Naomi, me and you can get this done. With your experience and your wisdom, and my youth, my looks, my capabilities, and my belief in myself, we can get this done. And so they go to the wealthiest man's field and they began Ruth. Because prior to this verse, chapter 2 opens, and Naomi had a kinsman of her husband's, a mighty man of wealth of the family of Elimelech, and his name was Boaz. And this is the man in which Ruth would go and glean corn. She would pick corn, leftover sheaves of corn that were on the ground, and whatever the workers would leave that would have fallen off of the baskets and things. She would go and pick those things up. Not so much to meet Boaz, but to be in that environment. It would have been a far-fetched for Ruth to believe that she would have gotten Boaz. I mean, surely Naomi knew of him. And surely those in prominence knew of Naomi because of the level of loyalty that Ruth showed Naomi. The level of loyalty that Ruth showed Naomi, coupled with the strangeness of the circumstances that they both were intertwined in. The fact that all of the husbands in the family transitioned out and left nothing but women. You see, when these women were when these women were left alone, it was as if someone grabbed a bullhorn and proclaimed it. These were not women that had many men. You didn't see these women hanging out at everybody's get-together. These were married women. These were women that were tucked away. These were women that were cared for. And it wasn't as if now they're back on the market because they were divorced. Not to say that a divorce is bad or anything of that nature. They were on the market because their husbands transitioned. Quality women. So word goes around. Naomi's reputation must have superseded her. The Bible does not convey this. Naomi's reputation must have been paramount. For one, for Ruth to risk everything in aligning to Naomi. She must have proven herself worthy. And it couldn't have been just because she could cook and clean. She had to have some level of worth outside of that allowed Ruth to justify cleaving to her, following her. Ruth says this, chapter 1, verse 16. And Ruth said, entreat me not to leave thee, or to return from following after thee. For whither thou goest, I will go, and where thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy God, my God. You don't get this from someone that just admires your output. You can fold the laundry and you can cook the food. You don't get that from this. You get that level of dedication from having substance, from having a spiritual connection, from having the ability to have proved yourself time and time again as a blessing, as something you can't do without, as possessing something that you don't see often, and that will bless those that align to it. This is what Ruth sees in Naomi. And Naomi sees in Ruth an ally as well. She sees in Ruth someone that is capable of taking information and making it useful. Friend, the worst thing you want to do is invest your time in people that think they know it all. The worst thing in the world you can do is invest your time in people that think that they know more about whatever it is in you. The worst thing you can do is invest your time in people that just want to be you. They just want to sit under you and watch you and learn you so that they can go out and mimic you and go no further than you. They don't really respect you. They feel as if they respect you to an extent because they want to mimic that thing that they respect. But they always feel like they can one-up you or that they can do it better than you. So they sit under you to get insight from you, or to gain blessings by way of being close to you. But there's no real love there. Naomi and Ruth were not like this. Naomi saw in Ruth someone that was willing to take all of her wealth of experience and respect it at the level that she gave it, and find it so worthy that she will allow it to implement itself in her life in her own way, through direction from Naomi, and get a different output. a bigger blessed output than the blessing that Naomi already experienced. Naomi could see herself planting seeds in Ruth that would foster a larger harvest than Naomi already experienced in her life. Ruth was eating off of Naomi's harvest, her sons, and the environment that Naomi created. Ruth came into Naomi's environment and loved it so much that even after her husband died, she didn't want to leave it. It was that rich. A sound investment. Pristine soil. And this is what makes the relationship between Naomi and Ruth so rich and monumental. You just don't get this dynamic at the level that you see it written here in this scripture often. Surely you get people together that admire one another and they'll go the distance with one another. But to have the ability of Ruth being able to take what Naomi gave at the fullness that she gave it. And then for Naomi to be able to trust and see the fullness of who Ruth was. You just didn't see it often, friend, in that way. So when she comes upon Boaz, they're both thinking the same thing. This is a great situation here. But they weren't plotting on Boaz. They were in a situation where Ruth is showing her ability to work. She's showing her capability. She's showing that I'm not waiting around for somebody to come and take care of me. Yeah, it looks like I'm taking the hard route. I probably am. I probably could do better by going out and dolling myself up and going to look for another husband. But I've got something in me that tells me I can do better than that. I'll go out here to this field and glean these corn sheaves. Somebody's going to see me there. They will see me while I'm moving, trying to better my situation on my own. Leaning on God, the God of Naomi, to see me through. Because this aspect is conducive of God. We don't wait around for things to happen. Surely, sometimes, friend, things will happen in your life. You won't have no answers to it, and you will wait around. There's nobody in the world that don't do it that way. You will do some things. You will make some mistakes. That's just how this story is. It's how it goes in life. For the most part, those that see themselves as capable, you will be able to sense it with their activities. And she comes across Boaz, and Boaz already knows about Ruth. Everybody knows the story of Ruth and Naomi. Friend, everybody know your story. They just ain't telling you. There are people in your circle that know your story. They just don't tell you. But they know it. They may not know the fullness of it like you do. Heck, the enemy may have put a twist in your story so that people don't even respect your story the way that they should. That's just how he is. But they know. Boaz would know the story of Ruth and Naomi, and he would honor it. He would know the truth of their story. And he would see the character of Naomi and Ruth. And because of that, he would tell Naomi and Ruth, verse 8, then Boaz said unto Ruth, hearest thou not, my daughter? Go not to glean in another field. neither go from here, but abide here fast by my maidens. Let thine eyes be on the field that they do reap, and go thou after them. Have I not charged the young man that they shall not touch thee? And when thou art athirst, go unto the vessels, and drink of that which the young men have drawn. And she fell on her face and bowed herself to the ground, and said unto him, Why have I found grace in thine eyes, that thou shouldest take knowledge of me, seeing I am a stranger? And Boaz answered and said unto her, It hath fully been showed me all that thou hast done unto thy mother-in-law since the death of thine husband, and how thou hast left thy father and thy mother and the land of thy nativity, and art come unto a people which thou knewest not heretofore. The Lord recompense thy work, and a full reward be given thee of the Lord God of Israel, under whose wings thou art come to trust. They all knew, but they all didn't respect it. But Boaz, the right one, respected it. There were many that had means and wealth that knew of the story of Ruth and Naomi. Yet they didn't, in their fullness, ever think to share their wealth with any of them. It wasn't their problem. It wasn't required of them. But Boaz did. Boaz would see Naomi and Ruth for who they truly were. And he would step in and help in a situation based on character. He didn't help Naomi because Naomi was beautiful, and which she probably was. But do you know how many beautiful women Boaz probably came across? Friend, when you reach certain levels of success, beauty is skin deep. Do you know how many beautiful women there are in the world to a very wealthy person? They come a dime a dozen. You must find beauty in something outside of the aesthetics once you've encountered beauty at certain heights for durations of time. He saw beauty in Ruth by way of her character. Ruth had character. Ruth stood for something. She had a deep level of knowing. Self-worth. She valued herself. She held herself at a certain regard. Had she not, she could have easily left Naomi and gone and gotten any husband that she could find to solve her problem, just so that she didn't have to solve it herself. Even a husband that anybody, she could have found anybody and altered her mannerisms and her likes to that husband. She didn't do that. She bet on herself, and she bet on her relationship with Naomi. And in doing so, she stood out like a sore thumb. And this is what made people take note. Because the ability for them to come together under such a regard was the uniqueness that allows for their story to have so much depth and richness that in which it could stand the test of time. These two women would acknowledge their strengths and their weaknesses. and they wouldn't hide them from one another. Friends, I'm here to tell you that there are people in your life that God has allowed to cross your paths because God ordained for those people to play a role in your life. But if you are not strong enough in yourself that when the lean years come upon you and your storyline that you've envisioned for yourself in your life could change, your husband transitions and you don't have the safety that you once thought you would have, and you're older, you've gotten accustomed to things and you're used to that person and they're no longer here, and you're an older woman like Naomi, or you're like Ruth and you become accustomed to the environment. You have a whole new family and you're in love with the family structure, and the rug is pulled from up under that, and you're still young and you're still beautiful. If you're not able to face the truth of you, what your heart is telling you to do, you will quiet your heart and leave with ego, right out of environments that God established for you to be in. There are many of us in life that do this, whether they're friendships, whether they're family relationships. The only reason Ruth and Naomi were able to weather the storm together was because they were both mature within themselves. They were mature. And all along the process of knowing one another and knowing themselves, they were able to value having one another around. There was value that Ruth saw in Naomi, and there was value that Naomi saw in Ruth. And that value, coupled with their own level of self-worth and knowing, allowed them to make executive decisions and bet on one another. There was a common mindset in which they could literally conquer the world. Literally, they conquered the world. How do I know this? When Boaz would meet Ruth, they would have a son, and that son would be the line of Jesse. The Davidic line will come through Boaz and Ruth. The line that would legitimately conquer the world. Legitimately. The spirit of the man that came from this line had a consistent level of a consistent characteristic. They were capable. Not all of them, but those that were. Your Davids, your Solomons, your Yeshuas, your Jesuses. They were capable. And they all sprang forth from the intermingling of Ruth and Boaz. Friend. But it could not have come together. It would not have ever happened had there not been a Naomi. Naomi was the introduction. And this is my point. There are many of you that God has put together, but because you were not mature enough within yourself, you can't face you. You can't stand to see somebody else standing in a certain thing. It makes you feel less than. And instead of you owning that, or even coming to your brethren or your sister and speaking to them your struggles of it, you feel seen. And so you destroy the relationship. And you get nowhere. 20 years later, you're still doing the same thing. You still got the desire to do it because that's that desire that God put in you. Like I said, when we look at Samson, he was born a mighty man. He was a mighty man. He was mighty in the capacity in which he could be mighty. But he didn't capture the fullness of it because his environment that he was raised in thwarted it. It is the same way with many of you in your relationships. Your immaturity has robbed you of the experiences that God has ordained for you before you were even brought into the world of light. Yet you still have the desire. You still want to go out. You still feel like it's hope in getting it, even though you've done nothing to embark upon it. Why? Why haven't you done anything? Because you were supposed to do that thing with that, as a group with that other person. It wasn't for you to spearhead. It was for you to enhance. You didn't foster the relationship. So you have nothing to enhance. But you have the longing in you. You know it's in you. You know your strengths. You just have no place to land them. You just have no place to implement them. Naomi and Ruth, two women, both capable. One wise enough to see a wise investment. And the other wise enough to see opportunity. And not just opportunity, wise enough to discern who to align to and who not. That is Ruth's gift. She was smart enough to know who to align to and who not, who to give her gifts to and who not, who to pay attention to and who not, who to go the extra mile for and who not. That is Ruth's gift. Whether in Naomi or in Boaz, it is her gift to see opportunity and to act, not in a manipulative way, but through the heart. She allowed her heart to lead her, and so did Naomi. This is the Bible study for you today. Doing it in the car, y'all. I keep telling you, I'm water. I take on whatever form is before me. And I don't take none of it personal. Because it's truly all my fault. I own it. And in owning it, I reap the maximum result from it. Own your relationships. Own your situations. And then alchemize them. In doing so, you and you alone, you and the God within you alone reap the maximum result. Ruth would align to Naomi because Naomi aligned to power. And this is what Boaz would say. In verse 12, the Lord recompense thy work, and a full reward be given thee of the Lord God of Israel, under whose wings thou art come to trust. It would be Naomi that would lead Ruth to God. And it will be the grace of God that will lead Ruth to Boaz. Your love more than you'll ever know. I'll never stop telling you. Be good to yourselves and be good to one another. Peace and